Good day, everyone, and welcome to another edition of URCA 360, where we talk all things URCA. I'm Juan McCartney, the Corporate and Consumer Relations Manager at URCA. What we like to do on this podcast is talk about what we have currently going on that impacts you, the public. One of the things that we have out now is a public consultation on the content regulation for broadcasters, the code of practice. Joining me today is broadcasting manager Bradley Gibson, who put out that consultation and who could talk to us about what it actually means for the public. So what is a code of practice? And thanks for joining us, by the way.
Thank you, Juan. It's my pleasure to be here. So the code of practice for content regulation is essentially the rules by which licensed broadcasters have to present their content to the public. And it is for purposes of ensuring that vulnerable persons are protected, for ensuring that there's fair competition, and for making the business of broadcasting as seamless as possible for those that are engaged in it and those that consume it.
So one of the things that got this whole ball rolling, so there's a couple of things people should understand. One is that every 3 years, URCA is supposed to go through the code of practice and see if it's still fit for purpose. And by fit for purpose, what that really would mean is that it still aligns with the values and mores of the behaving public and the landscape of broadcasting in general.
Yes.
Of course, broadcasting in general is changing very rapidly due to the internet, due to social media, due to other forms of media. And we now find ourselves in a landscape where broadcasters are not the only people who are providing information and entertainment as it was several years ago. So one of the issues that arose during the last general election was that the code imposes election silence on licensees, which means that on polling days, you cannot talk or discuss anything to do with elections. Now, one of the proposals in the new code of practice is that we do away with that to a certain extent. Tell us about that.
Yes. So when the election silence rules began, it was a long time ago. It was certainly pre-digital, and the reason for it was to prevent parties such as political parties with a lot of money, or perhaps an incumbent government, from monopolizing media and essentially campaigning to the last minute, perhaps unfairly, and presenting perhaps only one side of the issue. And again, pre-digital, that was effective, although there were always questions regarding the balance of the election versus the freedom of speech. Where we are today, and we've been brought here by technology, by the convergence of technology, and by the fact that it is so easy now for anybody to create content that from a visual quality standpoint is indistinguishable from that produced by licensed professional broadcasters and media content creators. The difference being that the traditional or the platforms that extend from the traditional are run based on standards, professional standards, and of course, imposed standards such as the code, and these things, which in the long run, it inures to their benefit to be seen as facilitating free speech and being objective, regardless of what their personal views are, because after the election, they still have to continue doing business. So now we come to where we have a million podcasts or people going live on Facebook, etc. And these laws do not apply to them. So on election day, nothing has stopped them, nothing will stop them, and certainly nothing in our laws in any time in their future can address that. So the people that are best qualified to discuss, who have the most information, who have the most historical perspective, ought not, according to our consultations and perhaps even a measure of common sense, be excluded from that conversation, and we're looking to change that. No, we don't want 1,000 political ads. We don't want the candidates lined up to be interviewed on the radio. No, but we do have a an excellent cadre of professional journalists, and of course we have the full range. But we also have a population that has the right to engage in those conversations, has the right to consume that information and make their own decisions. And whether or not election day suddenly changes everything, I don't know that that's practical, or even if it does, is it unfair? Because people, individuals, are free to speak and free to make up their own minds, free to make decisions. So I think that is something that we are ready to look at. The industry itself has indicated that, this. What are we going to do with this? And as you pointed out, we did have a very um, a very real example of that during the last elections, where there was certainly no intention, I believe, on anybody's part to to subvert the rules. However, because of all of the different platforms available and operated, traditional media cannot just do traditional media. You have to have websites, you have to have Facebook, and they looked at it and they said, we're going to do something else on these platforms, not on broadcast. That that created an issue because of the way the rules were set up, and we're looking at that in terms of taking corrective action to make it make sense, so to speak.
Okay. So one of the other things that the code is proposing is to loosen the restrictions on alcohol advertising as well as gaming advertising. People may find that somewhat alarming or startling, perhaps, given the nature of those two industries. But explain to us why URCA believes that the time has come to now look at loosening those rules.
Well, for one, there has been those actions are prohibited at this time. They're restricted on broadcast media. There's been no outcry, no complaints, and certainly the beverage industry, and to an extent the gaming industry, have been very instrumental in keeping a lot of these operations going. Um, Advertising of both gaming and alcohol are ubiquitous in this town. You can't drive 20 yards. You can't go to the airport. It is always there. Plus, we have we have other laws and frameworks. Certainly with gaming, um, persons that are not eligible to game cannot open an account. They cannot go into the stores. In terms of alcohol, um, we are at the point where there has to be a level of personal responsibility, parental responsibility, societal responsibility, and in an economic environment, um, we have to look at these pillars of the economy, and we have to be able to allow them not to run roughshod and to do whatever they want, but allow them to function without unreasonable encumbrance, to the benefit of building the country. And we thought that this would be an appropriate time to take another look at it, and put out the consultation as soon comes by in terms of what we ultimately decide to do. So, but I'll just add that it's not necessarily a moral issue one way or the other for URCA. We're not pushing or anything like that. We just want to advocate the most efficient use of our hours in a fair and reasonable and sustainable way for the industry.
Yeah. Yeah. So artificial intelligence is something that the entire world is grappling with. It's developing more rapidly than even the microchip. And it's hard to wrap our minds or hands around it. It's not a unique situation in the Bahamas. It's all over the world are trying to figure out how best to deal with artificial intelligence society-wide. In terms of broadcasting, you've proposed some new rules regarding artificial intelligence. Tell us about that and why.
Right. So, not necessarily new rules per se, because there are rules within the code that provide or that mandate that there's fairness, that there's objectivity, that people are not slandered. Um, these things apply whether you have an individual, with a microphone and a desk, or whether you have a programmer who says, okay, create this content, or this is what we want to do. The possibilities are limitless in a positive way in terms of what we can do with AI, with generative media, with all sorts of things. However, there are also dangers inherent in it. This has been a very active year worldwide in terms of elections. We're getting ready for elections in the United States, huge. We've had elections in the UK and the Europe and across the European Union. And one of the consistent themes that has come up has been deepfakes, which is an AI tool that allows a person to create content that makes it seem like a person um, is saying something that they did not, and it's gotten to the point where it is of such high quality that it's indistinguishable to the average person. Um, what we want is to recognize that this technology exists, and certainly not to prohibit licensees from using this technology, but to encourage them to use it responsibility, to use it responsibly, and to apply the existing rules in terms of fairness, in terms of all of that, to any content, regardless how it's produced with AI or whatever. And just make it clear that you cannot say, well, I know that that broke this or that rule, but it was AI, it was the computer. No, you have to do that responsibly. And that rule just because it is such a broad area, it's difficult to come up with a specific rule today when tomorrow then there'd be a new technology that everybody gravitates to. The important thing is that whatever that technology is, we remember the fundamentals and the fact that we're not, as an industry, um, here to mislead people, to interfere with democracy, to slander people, which it is so tempting. The technology is so easy to do that there certainly will, I believe, be instances where people attempted to do it, and we may have to call it out. But generally, we just want to make sure that people understand that we're aware of this technology. We know it is out there. We want you to use it. We want you to run your businesses as efficiently as possible. However, you have to be responsible. And and as far as that is concerned, I don't think that there's much further that we can go with that at this point, because we are so new. I mean, worldwide, some of the largest economies in the world are still trying to figure out how to do this. We don't have those economies to scale, so I doubt we will ever get to the point where we're fully regulating digital content, much less technology that produce content. But we do want to bring awareness to the fact that they exist and that there are rules by which they must be used responsibly.
Got it. All right. So, is there anything else you would like the public to know about the code of practice proposed revisions?
Well, I think it's important that we discuss access service. Access service is a term used in media to describe the means by which persons that may be visually or hearing impaired are able to enjoy and consume content. Um, Subtitles, sign language, described video, which um, it's less popular, but it's what I thought was very telling was that one of the biggest sponsors of the Olympic Games this year was the company that provided access services for persons to be able to watch the Olympics. Whether and I said watch, even if they're blind, because of the additional um, content that they're able to access through um, metadata and you know even because URCA has many consultations going at one time. We talked about 5G and 5G and these things you may not think of them as tied together, but 5G allows for cloud computing and even device rendering, which um, allows so much more flexibility for broadcasters to provide options for persons that may not even be necessarily hearing impaired, but they may be multitaskers who they want to watch that news report, but they're also doing something else. So they may turn on their closed captioning so they can read it. There are even other types of disabilities that are not necessarily visual or hearing. There are some autistic components that things like haptics can help in assisting persons like that with being able to consume and enjoy the content the same way as anyone else. And the most I think allowing for that technology to be used by the broadcast licensees by removing some of the very strict guidelines that were really specific to open that up to allow them to use any technology that exists to be able to do it while creating standards for quality and for reporting. Um, and also coming into alignment with the Persons with Disabilities Act 2014, which mandates that broadcasters, audiovisual, provide sign language and closed captioning, particularly during newscasts, during disaster broadcasts, and during national broadcasts, so that they are able to participate fully within the society as anybody else, regardless of their disability. And I think that is it's extremely important that we address. I think this is a good time again to address it because of the development and technology and the new means that are now available by which they can deliver these things more efficiently and perhaps follow the example of the Olympics and eventually create new streams of revenue so that it's a win-win. It's not just a burden, it's an opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Excellent. Well, the consultation is out. It closes out the September 20th. I believe, but there's been some talk of perhaps extending that so that licensees and the public can go through it more thoroughly. If you want to see the public consultation, you go to www.urcabahamas.bs. That's urcabahamas.bs, and you just go down to the bottom where it says recent consultations, and you'll see it pop up once you click on that. We want to thank you for joining us on URCA 360 today. We want to thank Bradley for being our guest and speaking so thoroughly about the Code of Practice proposed revisions. Until next time, I'm Juan McCartney. You guys take care.